The rain battered the tin roof of the old garage, a relentless drumbeat that matched the pounding in Ellie's chest. She stood in the dim glow of a single flickering bulb, her hands trembling as she stared at the hulking grease-streaked engine on the workbench. It was no ordinary machine. It was the impossible prototype from the billionaire tycoon Victor Hale, a man whose name carried the weight of empires and whose dares were the stuff of legend. Tonight, that dare was hers to answer. Ellie, a 22-year-old mechanic's daughter, with oil-stained overalls and a heart too big for her small-town life, had been thrust into a challenge that could change everything or break her completely. Her father's livelihood, their family's fragile hope, hung in the balance. And yet, as the storm raged outside, it wasn't fear that gripped her. It was something deeper, a quiet, burning resolve to prove that kindness and grit could outshine even the brightest of egos. Ellie's father, Tom, had run the only auto shop in Willow Creek for 30 years. His hands, calloused and steady, could coax life back into any engine, no matter how broken. But the years had worn him down. Bills piled up, customers dwindled, and the bank was circling like a vulture. When Victor Hale's sleek black limo rolled into town, it wasn't for a tune-up. Hale, a tech mogul whose name adorned skyscrapers and headlines, had a reputation for turning impossible dreams into reality and for crushing those who couldn't keep up. He'd heard of Tom's skill, the miracle mechanic whispered about in gearhead circles, and he arrived with a proposition that felt more like a gauntlet: fix his experimental engine, a labyrinth of custom parts and untested tech, or lose the shop to his real estate team, who were itching to turn Willow Creek into another soulless strip mall. Tom, stubborn as ever, took the challenge. But a week ago, a heart attack landed him in the hospital, leaving Ellie to face Hale alone. She wasn't her father. She was just the girl who'd grown up sweeping the shop floor, handing him wrenches, and learning the language of machines by osmosis. Hale, with his tailored suit and cold smile, didn't see a mechanic when he looked at her. He saw a pawn. "Fix it by tomorrow night," he'd said, his voice smooth as polished steel, "or your father's legacy is mine." The crowd of locals gathered outside the garage had gasped, their whispers buzzing like static. Ellie's best friend, Mia, squeezed her hand, her eyes wide with worry. But Ellie didn't flinch. She nodded, her jaw tight, and said, "I'll do it now." Alone in the garage, the engine loomed like a sleeping beast. It was unlike anything she'd ever seen, part jet turbine, part car engine, a chaotic fusion of innovation and arrogance. Hale's team had designed it to power his latest venture, a hypercar meant to redefine speed itself. But it didn't work. No one knew why. Not Hale's engineers, not the tech blogs buzzing with speculation, and certainly not Ellie. She traced her fingers over its cold metal, her mind racing. This wasn't just about saving the shop. It was about proving something to Hale, to the town, to herself. She thought of her father, his tired smile when she'd fixed her first carburetor at 12, his quiet pride when she'd rebuilt a transmission without his help. "You've got the gift, kid," he'd said. She clung to those words now, a lifeline in the storm. The clock read 2 a.m. Ellie hadn't slept in 30 hours. Her hands moved on instinct, dismantling parts, checking tolerances, her mind piecing together the puzzle. The engine was a mess of contradictions, cutting-edge materials paired with bizarre, almost amateurish flaws. A misaligned injector here, a mismatched gear ratio there. It was as if someone had sabotaged it from the inside. She paused, her wrench frozen mid-turn. Sabotage. The thought was absurd, but it nagged at her. Hale's empire was built on ruthless competition. Enemies weren't hard to come by. Could someone have tampered with his prized prototype? She shook her head, refocusing. Doubt was a luxury she couldn't afford. By dawn, she'd stripped the engine to its core, her hands black with grease, her ponytail fraying. Mia slipped into the garage with coffee and a worried frown. "Ellie, you need rest," she said, setting the cup down. "You're killing yourself." "I'm fine," Ellie lied, her voice hoarse. "This is bigger than me. If I fail, Dad loses everything." Mia's eyes softened. "You're not alone, you know. The whole town's rooting for you. Even old man Jenkins brought his toolbox over in case you need it." Ellie managed a small smile. Willow Creek was small, scrappy, and fiercely loyal. They'd rallied around her father when her mom passed 10 years ago, bringing casseroles and quiet support. Now, they were watching her, their faith, a weight she both cherished and feared. "Thanks, Mia," she said, turning back to the engine. "But this thing, it's like it's fighting me." By midday, the garage was a circus. Locals peeked through the windows, whispering about Hale's dare. A news van from the city rolled up, cameras flashing. Hale himself arrived at noon, his presence sucking the air from the room. He leaned against his limo, arms crossed, his eyes glinting with something between amusement and disdain. "Tick-tock, Miss Carter," he called through the open door. 8 hours left. Ellie ignored him, her focus razor sharp. She'd found something, a tiny, deliberate scratch on a fuel line, nearly invisible. Her heart raced. It wasn't a manufacturing flaw. Someone had cut it, just enough to cause a catastrophic failure under pressure. She tested her theory, rigging a temporary bypass. The engine sputtered to life for a moment, then died. Progress, but not enough. She needed more time, more tools, more everything. As the sun dipped low, the crowd outside grew. Kids held signs scrawled with "Go Ellie" in crayon. The local diner sent over a tray of sandwiches, which Mia forced her to eat. Ellie's hands shook as she worked, her mind a tangle of equations and instincts. She was close, so close, but the engine still wouldn't run smoothly. She needed to know why. Then, a memory sparked. Last month her father had ranted about a shady parts supplier who'd tried to sell him counterfeit components, cheap alloys, bad machining, he'd said. They'll fail under stress. Ellie's eyes darted to the engine's core. Could Hale's team have been duped? She grabbed a magnet from her toolbox and tested the rotor assembly. It stuck steel, not the titanium it should have been. Her breath caught. This was the heart of the failure. But time was running out. Hale stepped into the garage, his shadow falling over her. "Well," he said, his voice low. "Is it done?" Ellie stood, wiping her hands on a rag. "Not yet," she said, meeting his gaze. "But I know what's wrong. Your engine's got counterfeit parts. Someone swapped out the titanium for steel, and there's a cut in the fuel line. It's sabotage." The crowd outside went silent. Hale's face didn't change, but his eyes narrowed. "That's a bold claim. Miss Carter, prove it." She didn't hesitate. She pointed to the rotor, the magnet still clinging to it. "Titanium's not magnetic. This isn't." And the fuel line, "Look at the scratch. It's deliberate. Someone wanted this engine to fail." Hale's jaw tightened. For the first time, his confidence flickered. "You're saying my own team betrayed me?" "I'm saying someone did," Ellie replied, "and I can fix it. But I need more time." The crowd murmured, tension crackling. Hale studied her, his silence heavy. Then, to everyone's shock, he nodded. 12 more hours. Impress me." Ellie didn't waste a second. She called in favors old man Jenkins for his ancient lathe, Mia's cousin for his welding rig. The town rallied, tools and hands appearing like magic. By midnight, she'd machined a new rotor from scrap titanium she'd scavenged from a junked aerospace part her dad had kept for years. The fuel line was patched, the injectors recalibrated. Her hands moved with a precision she didn't know she had, guided by years of watching her father, by love for him and their little shop. At 3 a.m., the moment of truth arrived. The crowd, bleary-eyed but unyielding, gathered closer. Hale stood at the front, his expression unreadable. Ellie took a deep breath, her heart pounding so loud she thought it might drown out the engine. She turned the key. The engine roared to life, a deep, primal growl that shook the garage. It didn't sputter. It didn't stall. It sang. The crowd erupted, cheers echoing into the night. Mia tackled Ellie in a hug, tears streaming down her face. Ellie stood frozen, her chest tight with relief and disbelief. She'd done it. Hale stepped forward, his face a mask. "Well done," he said, his voice quiet but clear. "You've got your father's gift." He paused, glancing at the engine, then back at her. "And you've exposed a traitor." "I'll find out who." Ellie nodded, too exhausted to speak. But she wasn't done. She turned to the crowd, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "This wasn't just me," she said. "This was all of us. Willow Creek doesn't give up. We fix what's broken: machines, people, everything." The crowd cheered again, louder this time. Hale's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Your father's shop is safe," he said, "and I'll be sending you a contract. I could use someone like you on my team." Ellie shook her head, her smile soft but firm. "I'm needed here," she said. "This is home." As Hale drove off into the dawn, the crowd swarmed Ellie, their hugs and laughter wrapping her in warmth. She thought of her father, recovering in the hospital, and knew he'd be proud, not just of her skill, but of her heart. The engine's roar had been her triumph, but the love of her town, the kindness they'd shown, was the real victory. In that moment, under the fading stars, Ellie knew she'd fixed more than a machine. She'd reminded everyone that humanity, at its best, could. The sun broke over Willow Creek, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, as if celebrating Ellie's victory. The garage, still humming with the engine's residual heat, felt like a sanctuary. The crowd had thinned, most folks heading home, to catch a few hours of sleep before the day began, but a few lingered: Mia, old man Jenkins, and a handful of neighbors who couldn't bear to leave the magic of the moment. Ellie sat on a stool, her hands still smudged with grease, staring at the now quiet engine. It was more than a machine now. It was a testament to what she could do when pushed to her limits. But the weight of the night hadn't lifted. Her father was still in the hospital, and the shop, though safer now, was a fragile lifeline in a town that was fading under the pressure of progress. Mia slid onto the stool beside her, handing her a bottle of water. "You're a hero, you know that," she said, her voice soft but fierce. "The whole town's talking about how you stared down Victor Hale and won." Ellie shook her head, a tired laugh escaping her. "I didn't win anything, Mia. I just kept going. For Dad, for all of us. That's what makes you a hero," Mia insisted. "You didn't do it for glory. You did it because it was right." Ellie's eyes stung, but she blinked the tears away. She wasn't used to this praise attention, the weight of a whole town's hopes. She'd always been the quiet one, The girl in the background, fixing things while her father took the spotlight. Now, she felt exposed, raw, like the engine she'd just torn apart and rebuilt. I just hope Dad's okay, she whispered. He needs to see this. Mia squeezed her shoulder. He will. Doc says he's stable. You can visit him this morning. Ellie nodded, but her thoughts were elsewhere. The sabotage she'd uncovered gnawed at her. Who would risk tanking Hale's prototype? His empire was a fortress, but even fortresses had cracks, disgruntled engineers, rival companies, maybe someone closer. She'd seen the flicker in Hale's eyes when she'd called it sabotage. He hadn't been entirely surprised. That bothered her more than she wanted to admit. By 7 a.m., Ellie was on her way to the hospital, the engine's roar still echoing in her ears. The town felt different as she walked. The familiar streets, neighbors waved, shopkeepers called out congratulations, and a kid on a bike shouted, "You're awesome, Ellie." She smiled, but her heart was heavy. The hospital was a 30-minute walk, and the crisp morning air did little to clear her mind. She kept replaying the night, the scratch on the fuel line, the steel rotor, the way Hale had looked at her, like he was seeing her for the first time. She didn't trust him, not completely. Men like Hale didn't just hand out victories, they played games with higher stakes. At the hospital, Ellie found her father in a quiet room on the 3rd floor. Tom Carter looked smaller than she remembered, his face pale against the white sheets, an IV dripping steadily at his side, but his eyes lit up when she walked in. "Ellie," he rasped, his voice weak but warm. "Mia called, said you pulled off a miracle." Ellie sank into the chair beside him, her throat tight. "It wasn't a miracle, Dad. It was just me and the town. We fixed Hale's engine." Tom's smile was slow, proud. "I knew you could. You've got more than my hands, kid. You've got my heart." She swallowed hard, gripping his hand. "I found something, Dad. The engine, it was sabotaged. Counterfeit parts, a cut fuel line. Someone wanted it to fail." Tom's brow furrowed, his mechanic's mind kicking in despite the haze of medication. "Sabotage. Hale's got enemies, but that's bold, you tell him." "Yeah," she said. "He gave me 12 extra hours to fix it, but I don't think he's done with us." Tom's grip tightened. "Be careful, Ellie. Men like Haley don't like being shown up, especially by someone like you." "Someone like me?" she asked, half teasing, half curious. "Young, scrappy, honest," Tom said. "You're everything he's not." Ellie stayed until her father drifted off, his breathing steady. She kissed his forehead and promised to return, but as she left the hospital, her mind was racing again. She needed answers. The sabotage wasn't random, it was personal, and if Hale was digging into it, she wanted to know what he'd find. Back in town, Willow Creek was buzzing. The news van was still parked outside the garage, and a small crowd had gathered again, drawn by the story of the mechanic's daughter who'd bested a billionaire. Ellie slipped in through the back, avoiding the cameras. Inside, she found old man Jenkins tinkering with the engine, his weathered hands moving with surprising grace. "Couldn't stay away," he grunted, not looking up. "This thing's a beauty now. You did good, kid." "Thanks, Jenkins," Ellie said, grabbing her toolbox. "But I'm not done. I need to know who messed with it." Jenkins raised an eyebrow. "You're poking a hornet's nest, girl. Hale's world ain't kind to folks like us, I know," she said. "But if I don't, who will?" She spent the afternoon combing through the engine's documentation, a stack of schematics Hale's team had left behind. Most of it was jargon, proprietary alloys, quantum fuel injectors, but she noticed something odd. The parts list included a supplier she recognized, Apex Dynamics, the same shady outfit her father had warned her about. She dug deeper, cross-referencing serial numbers on the rotor. They matched Apex's catalog. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't a coincidence. Ellie called Mia, who was better with computers than anyone in town. "Can you look into Apex Dynamics? I need to know who they're selling to." Mia didn't hesitate. "On it." "But Ellie, if this is what you think it is, you're playing with fire." By evening, Mia had answers. Apex Dynamics was a small player, but they'd recently landed a contract with Hale's company, supplying components for the hypercar project. More telling, their CEO had ties to a rival tech firm, one that had been outbid by Hale in a high-stakes merger. Ellie's gut twisted. This wasn't just sabotaged, it was corporate warfare, and she'd stumbled into the middle of it. She was about to call Hal when his limo pulled up outside. The crowd parted as he strode into the garage, his presence as commanding as ever. But there was something different now, a tension in his shoulders, a shadow in his eyes. "Miss Carter," he said, his voice clipped, "we need to talk." Ellie crossed her arms, her wrench still in hand. "I was about to say the same thing. Apex Dynamics, they supplied your rotor. It's steel, not titanium, and I'm betting they knew it." Hale's eyes narrowed, but he didn't deny it. "My team's already investigating. Apex's CEO has connections, but you're not supposed to be involved." "I'm already involved," Ellie shot back. "You made it my problem when you dared me to fix your engine." For a moment, Hale was silent, his gaze locked on hers. Then, to her surprise, he chuckled, a low, grudging sound. "You're fearless, aren't you?" "No," she said honestly. "I'm just stubborn and I care about what's right." Hale studied her, then nodded. Fair enough. I'll handle Apex, but I owe you more than just your shop. Name your price. Ellie didn't hesitate. Fix Willow Creek. The bank's been bleeding us dry. Help us rebuild new equipment for the shop, a community center, something to keep this town alive. Hale raised an eyebrow. That's your ask. Not money, not fame. This town's my family, Ellie said. That's worth more than your money. The crowd outside had grown quiet, listening through the open door. Hale glanced at them, then back at Ellie. Done, he said, and I'll throw in a scholarship fund for kids like you. Ellie blinked, caught off guard. Why? Because you reminded me of something, Hale said, his voice softer now. Humanity. It's messy, but it's powerful. You proved that as Hale left, the crowd erupted again, their cheers carrying into the night. Ellie stood in the garage, her heart full. She'd fixed more than an engine, she'd sparked hope. For her father, for Willow Creek, for herself. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she knew one thing. Kindness, grit, and a little stubbornness could fix anything, and in that moment, under the glow of the garage light, Ellie Carter felt unstoppable.